Dun dun dun. Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Higurashi. Last time, you were confronting Sukara, who admitted everything that he was working with Lowell and stuff like that. But it turned out, he wanted to throw that away and do the right thing, and it was kind of wholesome. And then as we were leaving with him, a wild Hanada, a wild snake in the grass popped out. So let's see what happens here. Probably gonna maybe get crazy. I don't know.
昔の恋心復活
This
ですか
motherfucker. Yep, we got ganked. He was in the car? I thought he was like outside, like the window, like looking in. Bro was in the car. Even though nobody else should be in the car, the two of them turned toward the voice coming from the back seat and then done. Pass over, done. Something was inserted through the headset against the nape of Sutana's neck, causing him to let out a moan as his body convulsed. Oh, maybe it was a taser then? Because if it's hitting his nape of his neck and like the little gap in the headrest, then it can't really I mean, he has to hit hard. It must be like awkward if it's not like a taser. Then his head slammed against the steering wheel with all the momentum of his upper body behind it, and he stopped moving. The moment she looked back, the enemy didn't waste that opportunity. She felt a numbness across her entire body like she was struck by lightning. Okay, literally taser, and then her consciousness quickly began fading away. Alright, well that wasn't the fight I expected to happen, but get tasered. Apparently, Hanada researched Shion took some taser lessons while he was away. She saw the black mass emitting sparks and realized it was a stun gun, but it was the last thing she saw before her vision was swallowed by the darkness. Tomoe opened her eyes, feeling a faint trembling in her neck. Bro, we just got kidnapped. It was dark. No, not just that. The outlines of the shapes were blurry and hard to make out. She could tell she was inside a car based on the unique smell and feel of the chair, but everything outside the window looked like total darkness, so she had no idea where it was. It felt like she was in a dream, like she'd been dragged into the depths of darkness.
ここはどこ
おや気づきましたか次長いや未来のお嬢さん
Dun dun dun. Who's this? He knows our father? Is that Hanada? But he's so young. Actually, I don't know how old he is. He looked young. She raised her head, which felt as heavy as lead, and turned toward the source of that voice. The passenger side window was open about 3 centimeters, and in that gap she felt she could see a familiar person's eyes.
さすがアルコールに強いだけありますね
Oh, so he does know her father. Oh, he got out of the car, man. Is he gonna set it on fire or explode it?
まさか目を覚ますとは思いませんでしたよ
Wait, so bro tasered and then made them drink alcohol?
花田くん
Just then, a band of dazzling light gleamed into the car from the distance, and she faintly heard the high-pitched sound of a steam whistle. Alright, no, he's not gonna explode the car, he's gonna let it get hit by a train. I guess that makes the death look less sussy, but they're definitely still gonna be sussed about it. That light just now must have been a lighthouse, so this is a harbor? What? Oh, I guess if it's it could be a steam train, but they don't really use that. Okay, so maybe he's not gonna get the car hit by a train, he's just gonna sink it into the ocean. That's actually probably the best option, because they might not find it for a while. And then...
どうもこんばんは
Look at him with his nice looking suit, this motherfucker.
目覚めの気分はいかがですか
I feel like I usually don't like light colored suits. I'm definitely a darker suit enjoyer, but it looks good on him. Gotta admit it. The face reflected in the light as it shone past again was that of her subordinate who supposedly went missing just a few days ago, Hanada.
どうして。
Tomoe instinctively tried to lean forward, but was quickly struck by a feeling of dizziness and fell over in her seat. There was no strength left in her body. A lethargic sensation enveloped her mind, and she could feel her vision and consciousness wavering. If she relaxed her focus for even just a moment, she'd close her eyes and fall asleep.
ああ、気をつけた方がいいですよ。あなたは飲みすぎて泥酔ってことになっているんだから。下手に動くと余計に酔いが回って気分が悪くなるだけですよ。
泥酔。
That's odd. She was feeling wary of Sukata tonight, so she only had a small aperitif and didn't drink a drop of wine. And Sukata drove, so he didn't have any alcohol at all. No, she's too woozy, man. That's right, where is Sukata? Slowly coming back to her senses, Tomoe turned toward the driver's seat beside her. Sukata was sitting there, with his eyes closed and not moving a muscle as if he were dead.
塚田さん。
大丈夫です。まだ生きてますよ。どうやら秘書さんの方はそれほど酒に強くなかったようですね。ま、普通アルコールを血管に注射されたりなんてしたら少量でも一気に酔っ払っちまうんですが。
That's smarter, I guess. Just making them drink it while they're passed out. Alcohol intoxication happens far sooner when injected into the bloodstream rather than being taken orally. Even a small amount will have an immediate effect on the whole body. Hopefully you used at least expensive liquor, not the cheap stuff. It was a fairly rudimentary disguise for making someone look like a drunk driving accident. And depending on where you choose to inject, it can be very difficult for forensics to notice the injection mark.
酒を飲みすぎて酔いざましに港を訪れたもののハンドル操作を誤って海に落下。警察官なのにダメだな。ちゃんと注意してあげないとダメじゃないですか。
貴様。
Molly squeezed out all her remaining strength to reach for the door handle and pull it, but despite her efforts, the door wouldn't budge.
ああ、ドアを開けようとしても無駄ですよ。この車、ちょっと細工させてもらいましてね。いくつか部品を外させてもらいました。
Damn. I'm guessing, well, I don't know when he would do it. I don't know how long they've been out.
ま、ガラスを叩き割れば出られないこともないですが、酔った状態でそれができますかね。
Bro just gave her the way out? Can you underestimate Tomoe? In a fit of rage, Tomoe violently slammed on the door 2 or 3 times. But there's no chance something like that would break the lock. In fact, it only succeeded in making her dizziness worse, and an unpleasant sensation came rising up inside her chest.
だから無駄ですってば。とりあえずおとなしくそのまま寝ていた方がいいですよ。その方が溺れる感覚も少なくて楽に死ねます。
冗談じゃない。
Tomoe harshly spat that out while glaring at Hanada, and why was it in brackets, with a sharp gaze, and even though her movements were sluggish, she kept slamming her body against the door.
やれやれ、しぶといお嬢さんだ。
Hanada shrugged his shoulders and then brought his face in closer to the window.
ミナイさん、あんたはやりすぎたんですよ。気が触れておかしくなった奴らだけを取り締まってくれていれば、いい目くらましになってよかったんですがね。くそ。 釣りの存在に気づいちまったんじゃもう仕方ない。俺としてもあんたのことは結構気に入ってたんですよ。でもま、上からの命令です。悪く思わんでくださいな。
Oh yeah, dude, don't sweat it. Totally don't blame you for killing us.
上って誰よ。
Hanada whistled like he was impressed by that question. Even moments before her death, this female detective was thinking first and foremost about finding the culprit.
正直答える義務はありません。
Bro's gonna answer, thinking she's gonna die out of respect. She escapes. It's over.
と言いたいところだが、メイドの土産だ。
See, this is what you get when you're too cocky. Man should have just dumped the car in right away. Villains always get too cocky, man.
誰に殺されるかわからんまま死んで化けて出られるのも勘弁ですからね。そこの秘書さんがお仕えしている先生様ですよ。
Oh, his boss. Ryu? Tomoe caught her breath and froze, thinking the answer was more expected than surprising. So, the mastermind behind the series of events was Welfare Minister Akihito Chiba?
まさか12年前のローエル事件捜査で私の両親を殺したのも
Well, it kind of made sense,
あの手の者か。
since he used someone else as a scapegoat for the whole Lowell incident.
ま、そうとも言いますかね。
Hey, the mystery got solved. Yo, we finally did it.
だ
Yay.
って殺したのは俺
Jesus.
なんですから。
Hanada's making it personal. I wonder if we're gonna attach him in this arc, or it's gonna be like the grand battle when we get back to the other side of the arc. And Hanada's gonna be with Tatano. Imagine.
に
How old are you, bro? You look so young. A rush of numbness coursed through her body, like all the blood had drained out of her, and her vision suddenly darkened. The flow of time had come to a halt, like she was stuck between two moments. She couldn't move a muscle. Her arms and legs were ensnared like the air itself was frozen. On the other hand, her thoughts were finally starting to cool down, so she began organizing and piecing together this new information. This man standing right before her eyes was one of her subordinates, who always worked at her side, but he was the one who burnt down her parents' home 12 years ago, an event that was so deeply engraved into her heart and mind.
どうです？長年追ってきたご両親の仇をその目で見た感想は。
貴様。
さて、おしゃべりの時間はおしまいです。
Now if we die, we're definitely coming back to haunt you. I don't know if this was a good idea.
このままあの世に行くまでの短い時間、恋人とのドライブを楽しんでくださいな。海の底への直行便ですよ。では、ごゆっくり。
Hanada moved toward the front of the car as he said that, and then crouched down, disappearing under the hood. Just as the car began to lurch forward, she realized that he had removed the stoppers in front of the tires. She stretched her leg across the driver's seat to step on the brake. Obviously, that's not gonna work. When she did, the car began slowly losing speed, so Tomoe tried to push even harder to bring it to a complete stop. But the alcohol coursing through Tomoe's head caused her consciousness to fade out for a moment. Okay, so the brakes actually work? I thought he would have removed that shit. Damn, so maybe... Oh, too drunk. But the alcohol coursing through Tomoe's head caused her consciousness to fade out for a moment. And as soon as that feeling in her foot disappeared, the car began moving once again. Hold. Tomoe reinvigorated her fading consciousness and kicked her foot down hard to push on the brake once more. Watching this from the outside, it was probably quite humorous. But if she relaxed even for a moment, her thoughts and consciousness would fade all at once, causing Tomoe and Tsukada to plummet into the sea locked inside this car.
大したものですね。ま、力を入れればその分、アルコールが全身に回る。無駄なあがきだと思いますが、心ゆくまで頑張ってくださいな。俺は忙しいんで、ここで失礼します。
Oh, come on, bro. How much more talky can you be? You're not even on a stay to make sure she actually dies? Honestly, if I was Tomoe, I'd be spamming the horn too. Maybe that'll help, but I don't know. But bro's leaving. That's like, it's just... You shouldn't do that, man.
さよなら、お嬢さん。あなたの理想論はなかなか素敵でした。
Thank you.
天下の大臣に一泡吹かせたそのガッツに乾杯。
With a boisterous laugh, Hanada slowly left the area. Tomoe gazed at his back as he did, with bloodlust in her eyes, then let out a sigh and turned toward Tsukada sitting beside her.
塚田先輩、起きてください。塚田さん。
Bro is down. Tomoe desperately held her foot down on the brake while using all her remaining strength to shake Tsukada over and over again. But Tsukada didn't move. His body temperature indicated he was still alive, but his arms, his legs, even his eyelids wouldn't budge.
お願い、起きて塚田さん。このままじゃ、このままじゃ。
No longer able to speak articulately, Tomoe barely squeezed that out in a heavy voice. But just as Hanada said, her movements had become sluggish, and to make matters worse, her consciousness was dwindling. The darkness clouding her vision was getting deeper and deeper. Her head was swirling and her thoughts scattered, like she was riding an amusement park ride. And above all, their lives depended on the strength in her legs. But those legs didn't even feel like a part of her anymore. She put a hand on the steering wheel in hopes of at least turning the car in another direction. But no matter how far she spun it, the car kept moving straight. Similarly, Yep. Pulling up the parking brake didn't put the car to a stop. She didn't even feel any resistance behind it.
死ぬの、私。
Well, it's not the first time.
ここで、こんなところで。
We need the music to change into something epic. Maybe Takano's Dear You version, and then we'll escape. We just need a music switch. This is too depressing. She felt too sick to even feel fear or sadness. Her field of view blurred and distorted. She could no longer make out shapes or even colors. It felt like she was being dragged into the depths of the darkness. Despite the extreme rage and agitation within her, she was rapidly losing energy and momentum. No, maybe the world she's experiencing right now is nothing but a dream. If she fell asleep right now, maybe everything would be back to normal after she woke up again. Yes. This has to be a dream. So, even if I don't keep struggling in vain to stay awake, that's fine. With those thoughts in mind, Tomoe's eyelids gradually began to feel heavier, and her field of view gradually became narrower. I'm sorry, everyone. Madoka, Fujita-kun, Yamokai, Maino-san, Natsumi-san, Renna-san. The faces of the people she knew came to mind, one after another. and she muttered an apology to each and every one of them, even as all the strength drained from her body, and eventually the feeling of holding down the braid started to feel weaker. And then... What that? Ghost Nagisa? How? Hearing that voice brought Tomoe back to her senses. She pried her eyelids open again and turned to face forward. And then, right there, it was impossible. But a girl who should no longer exist in this world was standing right before her. Actual Ghost Nagisa, what the heck?
なんであなたが
Saved. Ghost buff.
後ろのドアですぶち破って
With that, ain't no way Hanada didn't fit the back door. The girl had a look of desperation on her face as she started and pointed behind Tomoe. Actually ghost buff? What that? Before she could confirm the truth of this, her body began to move instinctively. Tomoe kicked against the dashboard and used the momentum to slide her body into the gap between the two seats, making her way into the back seat. The car began moving forward all the more quickly as soon as she released the brakes, but she paid no heed and used all her strength in her body to slam herself against the rear door. Again and again. When she slammed into the rear side door a second time, it let out a crunching sound as the door came open. See, if Hanada was here, he could have stopped this whole thing. He could have just, like, punched her or something. Because she's still drunk. But this motherfucker just leaves. She courageously looked back at Tsukada with the feeling that she had done it, and then turned toward the wharf and took a deep breath. Saved.
ナムアミダ仏か
Bro, you are
ご両親
ass.
と同じ末路をたどるのも運命ってやつですかね
I feel like if they found out he fails to kill her, he might, like, I don't know, die or something. It's a pretty big blunder for no reason. Especially if he was just watching from the distance. Did we get Tsukada out? Yeah. While holding Tsukada's body, Tomoe swam across the surface of the sea to a corner of the wharf, where thankfully she spotted a ladder that led up to the surface, and then...
塚田さんしっかりしてください塚田さん
After shouting that, Tomoe's voice became very thin, and she coughed up all the water inside her throat. Then Tomoe collapsed and completely lost consciousness. Welp. That was intense. Jesus. We'll continue on for a bit more. If it was a 30 mark, I would have stopped, but gotta cook a little bit more. Hey, what's up, bro?
気がつかれましたか
She could make out a white ceiling and the red light of the sunset pouring in through the window, and then she saw Fujita gazing at her with a relieved look on his face.
ここは
Saved. As soon as she got up, a dull pain resounded inside her head. She grimaced and then took a look around at what appeared to be a hospital room. She suddenly turned her gaze downward and noticed she was dressed in a nightgown. The straps around her chest were tied in a single half-knotted bow. That was Madoka's signature style of knot, which meant she must have been the one who changed her clothes. Good, obviously we didn't want it
来てるん
to be Fujita.
ああ昼過ぎまでずっとまだ残ってるっておっしゃってたんですが徹夜で疲れ気味だったので所長が俺と変わるようにって
Dude, Hanada's in so much shit, especially when we tell the chief and like the others that he's the one who killed our father. Because they all have grudges against that too, right?
そっか。
ああ、待っててください。すぐ先生を呼んできますので。
Fujita dashed out of the hospital room as soon as he finished saying that. And a short while later, he returned alongside a doctor in a white coat and a nurse.
私、どうやってここに？
まだ無理しない方がいいですよ。怪我は大したことないようですが、昨べからずっと眠っておられたんですから。
ゆうべ？
While Tomoe quietly received a medical exam, memories revived in the back of her mind, causing her to gasp and take a look around. This was a private room, and Fujita was the only one here. In which case, oh no?
藤田君、塚田さんは？
ああ、大丈夫です。一緒に乗っておられた方も命に別状はありません。別室で眠っておられます。
そう。よかった。
When she heard that, Tomoe held a hand against her chest and laid her upper body down again in relief. Thanks to that, the comforting softness of the pillow, she spontaneously let out a deep sigh.
異常はないようです。ただの過労でしょう。
Alright, dude. Before long, the doctor finished the medical exam. Is there no, like, burn marks from the stun gun or something? He told Tomoe to get some rest for now, and then exited the room along with the nurse. After seeing them, Fujita began speaking in a whisper.
ちょうど港の夜景を見に来ていたアベックが通報してくれましてね。
What that?
機捜の速水さんの話では、二人折り重なるようにして倒れていたと。本当にご無事で何よりです。
ごめんね、心配かけちゃって。
She gonna spill the tea?
車は速水さんたちが海中から引き上げてくれました。本当、運が良かったですね。後部座席の左ドア以外は完全な密閉状態に細工されていましたので、それに気づかなかったらもろとも海にドボン。
It's not luck. It's what you got. It's good karma. We got our ghost friend helping us.
運か。
It wasn't luck, Tomoe muttered that to herself while gazing up at the ceiling, recalling the moment just before she escaped the car. At the time, Tomoe was rapidly losing consciousness thanks to the alcohol injection, so she seriously thought it was all over. But that moment she was sure she heard a voice. Yes, it was Nagisa's voice. If that voice hadn't called out to her, Tomoe would have been too busy focusing on the braids to think of pushing the door in the back.
それにしても、どうして渚さんの声が？
That hallucination she heard in her drunken stupor felt so realistic, and she never heard Nagisa talk like that before. So what on earth was that?
藤田君、なんで後部の左ドアだけ開けることができたのかしら？
さあ、それは俺にも。あ、でもあの車の鑑識、そろそろ終わった頃ですから。速水さんに問い合わせれば何かがわかるかもしれません。
ならお願い。面倒をかけるけど、速水さんに確認してもらえる？
そりゃまあ、別に構いませんが、どうかしましたか？
ちょっとね。さて。
After saying that, Tomoe sat up, slipped her feet into the slippers on the floor, then strengthened her wavering consciousness and held a hand against the bed as she rose to her feet.
ミナイさん？何を？
着替えるから、ちょっと部屋の外に出ていて。スーツは、あれか。
そうじゃなくって。あなたはさっきまで意識不明だったんですよ。せめて今日一日くらいはお医者さんの言う通り安静に。
ここが正念場なの。ごめん、わがまま言わせて。
ミナイさん、
But Tomoe continued dragging her clearly exhausted body, reaching for her suit on the wall. Then she slapped both her cheeks with her hands to wake herself up and raised her head.
止めるべきなのだろうか。いや、
Nah, I don't think he has the power. Fujita seemed to come to an understanding while looking at Tomoe's tense expression and watched the whole scene unfold. He kept quiet and left the hospital room. No matter what happened, nobody could stop her now. After realizing that, he decided to walk down the hall, thinking about how he might get discharge permission from the doctor. Hello. Madoka was walking down the hallway, but when she saw her sister emerge from the entrance, she was so startled she nearly dropped the paper she had in hand. She was sleeplessly staying by Tomoe's side until just a little while ago. She refused Fujita's concerned request to trade places with her no matter how many times he asked, and even after Yamokai ordered her to come back to the station, only a few hours had passed and she reluctantly acquiesced.
今日も早上がりしてお姉ちゃんの病室に泊まり込もう。
Though she was walking and thinking that, her sister was right there in front of her, standing with Fujita. Unbelievable, Madoka thought as she rushed over to Tomoe.
大丈夫なの？お姉ちゃん全然目を覚まさないから。私
平気よ。もう血も止まったし、傷も残らないわ。
Tomoe wore a courageous smile as she said that, lifting her bangs to reveal the bandage applied there. Her injuries were mild, just as Fujita said. Even so, her face still looked pale, even in the light of the sunset, so she didn't seem healthy by any stretch. Madoka's eyes were open wide as she struggled to find the words to respond. But then she noticed Fujita standing beside Tomoe, shaking his head at her, and decided to keep her mouth shut. Madoka had already heard from Fujita and Yamokai about the identity of the passenger taken to the hospital along with her, so there was probably no need to ask Tomoe why she was forcing herself back to work.
心配いらないって。あんたも元の仕事に戻りなさい。それじゃね。
待ってお姉ちゃん。
Just as Tomoe was about to leave and turn, Madoka called out to her in a strong tone. So Tomoe looked back over her shoulder to face her. And Madoka thought about whether or not to say anything, before deciding to tell her about the visitor who just came to the chief's office.
今
What the
薫
heck?
山沖社長のところにお客さんが。警察庁の広報室長さんだって言ってたよ。
前野さんが？失礼します。見ないです。
入りたまえ。
I feel like this is a good stopping point, honestly. I feel like there's gonna be a lengthy conversation, and Tomoe's more likely to drop the news, but I'm thinking she's holding it just so she can get her own revenge. That might be the play. But anyways, guys, short but sweet episode. Very, very intense situation. Glad Tomoe got out of it with the thanks to Ghost Nagisa. Love to see it. I mean, I'm wondering, because she was like, asked a friend why that door could be open. So she was thinking maybe in a drunken stupor, she might have imagined it in the form of Nagisa, but maybe she noticed something subconsciously to open that door. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, and next time we'll have a meeting with the bosses. Should be fun. But later.